It's Thursday. It's Justice Thursday. Conversation that we want to have today is about the judiciary embracing technology, digitization of judiciary services. Last week, the Chief Justice was in Mombasa, where she launched digitization of several services in the Mombasa courts. And today we want to have that conversation. We're joined by two people. The Honorable Elizabeth Tanui joins us again in the Situation Room. She's been here before. She's the Deputy Registrar at the Commercial and Tax Division of the High Court. And Amos Kimani is an ICT officer at the Employment and Labor Relations Court. Amos and Honorable Elizabeth, karibuni sana. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us again.
It's good to have you.
Yeah.
Good morning, Eric. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Sasa Amos, bahati yako mbaya, huyu tutamuita your honor wewe Mr. Amos.
That's okay.
Kama Amos hivi tutakuita brother.
Bwana.
Yes.
Bwana Kimani. Karibuni sana.
Thank you so much.
To welcome you, City has the day's proverb.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week have been from the country of Burkina Faso. The country of honest and upright men. Well, that's what the term Burkina Faso actually means. I'm paraphrasing it, but that's what one Thomas Sankara intended when he did away with the name Upper Volta and renamed his country Burkina Faso. He set on that path.
He was inspirational in his name, or aspirational in his name.
Honest and upright men. Now, the uprightness, Eric, doesn't imply
about gate.
At his standing
upright.
No. Like, so that's not what it means. It means honest in word and deed.
Honest man.
No. Okay, that one.
Upright also. Man. Hard-working man. Good man.
Yes.
Okay.
That's going to be answer. Yes.
Yes, Eric. Any other man you'd like to include in that particular?
Sober.
Sober.
Yeah.
Okay.
Religious man.
Okay. He who speaks does not know that the listener is smart.
He who speaks doesn't know that the listener is smart.
What is implied here is the speakers are who thinks they're smart.
Your honor. You umesikia.
Yeah.
What's your interpretation of it?
Yeah, the listeners are smart. I think, I agree in terms of, people actually know a lot of things. They just need somebody to bring them out, clarify them. Yeah, so as you speak, just know that the listeners are actually smart.
Amos, what's your interpretation?
There's what that goes around that's I think it just evaporated, but sometimes you speak assuming that maybe the person you are talking to doesn't know much, but in the real sense, they might know more than you. So too much talk sometimes is not necessary. Yeah, sure.
People know what you're saying. They
feel it.
They can feel it. Honorable Tanui, we've been having conversations about digitization of the judiciary and judiciary embracing technology. You're the Deputy Registrar at the Commercial and Tax Division. Tell us the progress of what you've done in the division in terms of embracing technology.
So let's start with where the judiciary has come from to understand where we are. The journey has taken a long time. Like any other state organ, our procedures, our processes have basically been manual. And what do I mean by manual processes and procedures? I want you to imagine filing a court case before COVID, where it would mean that you will have to create, because every court, case that comes to, every case that you bring to court has to come with a document. So it will mean that you create your documents wherever you are. Then you need to, travel basically to that particular court station. So let's imagine you're traveling to Kiambu, for instance. So you take a matatu and you go to Kiambu for purposes of going to file a document. Once you are at that particular court, you queue because everybody else is traveling. to file their cases. So depending on the queue, I want you to look at the time that you will take. So there's a queue for purposes of you presenting that document. And what are
Hard
you presenting
copies.
it for? For assessment. Assessment where somebody like Amos would look at it, appreciate the nature of that document, and assess it at, let's say, 75. Because a common document that usually comes on everyday basis is an affidavit of service, which costs 75 shillings. That 75 shillings, you just needed me to put a signature and put, that it is 75 shillings, even though you know it. But you see, without that signature, there's no way you're going to pay in the bank. So you then take a trip back to the bank to pay 75 shillings.
75 bob.
75 bob. You queue again at the bank. And then you come with the banking slip. You show it to me. And then I receive your document and I stamp it. And that is when it is considered that it has been filed. That's where we are coming from, isn't it? And then COVID comes. We haven't launched the systems that we are going to talk about. COVID comes, and of course we close the registries. So it means that you will have to send these documents via email. But you send it via email, I have to again download it, appreciate what it is, send you an invoice, you go pay, send me the process. Okay?
Yep.
So look at the time, look at the costs that it would involve, and look at that 75 shillings, because you would use most likely 500 shillings to do all that. Yeah. So then we launched the EFiling system, which we are very happy to talk about today, and which the Chief Justice has cascaded it now to the Mombasa Law Court. So the EFiling system then allows you, from the comfort of your office, to upload that particular affidavit of service, to pay for it online, and to have it stamped in the system. So the time and the cost basically have gone out.
That process was just too tedious.
It was the queuing.
And it's for absolutely nothing that you can justify.
It only seems tedious now because we have options.
Now when you look back.
In a time when there were no options, it wasn't really tedious. It was the only thing.
It
was the thing.
There was nothing to compare it with.
Exactly.
And people were fewer. Okay? Court cases were fewer. And the mindset was that when you went to court, it was going to take time anyway. So
that's an interesting point. So then, do you see that? I mean, just as you're going through the process and looking at then the elements of what this all means now, going towards a digitized system, do you see that as a result of streamlining this, as a result of going digital? I mean, Kenya has been said over and over to be a very litigious society. So do we see then that there have been more cases lodged because the process then seems to be a little bit less strenuous?
I think there are more cases that are being filed now. It's easier to lodge a case. For instance, at the small claims court where Amos sits, there are forms which you just fill online. And once you have filled those forms online, it's easier, even if it is 50,000 shillings. There's no longer these long procedures of you have to bring a plaint. That plaint has to be drawn by so and so. You just fill a form and then you upload it. Amos receives it, sends you a mention notice. Within 60 days, you are done with that case. So there are actually more cases. But also for us, I think we are able to track the number of cases now real time in terms of how many cases have been filed per day. Instead of, that time where you have to call, for instance, in Kisumu. So you people, how many cases came in? You call Mandera, how many cases came in?
And
right
someone has
now.
to go to the hard copy.
Exactly. Give me a few minutes.
Na kuna ule mtu alikuwa hapa saa hii ameenda wapi? Na nimemsainia.
Yes, ama ameenda kwa bank, watatungojee, then we see whether he will pay, So at the end of the day, the Chief Justice can sit in her office and she can tell how many cases have been filed today, how many documents have been filed on existing cases, how many applications have been filed under certificate of urgency. So for us, even in terms of management, in terms of efficiency and effectiveness, that has really, really improved. So yes, true, more cases are being filed because we have simplified the process.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I ask this question? How many people do you have who manage this stream of online information that keeps arriving at you?
So the court system is divided into court stations and divisions, and every division then has its own registry staff. Let me talk about the commercial and tax division, which serves which is served by 7 judges, 4 deputy registrars, and 50 judicial staff. These 50 judicial staff, some of them will have to go to court with the judges. Some will then manage the registries, and I have about 12 who are managing the court registries. What are they doing even now on the online platform? Documents are coming in on the online platform. You have to process them in terms of verifying whether the court fees have been paid, verifying whether the documents are in the correct format, and of course then giving the litigants, once you have paid, once you have filed a case, you need a document to go and serve the other party. If I have sued you, Mr. Muga, I need to inform you that, there is this case that I have brought against you. So that document, I have to generate it and, ensure that you have it so that you inform the other party. So yes, it is true that we have streamlined, we have digitized, we have automated, but there are registry staff who then manage that process.
Are they adequate for the task?
No, they are not. They are not. We thought that we will require less, registry staff.
Because it's digital.
Exactly. But it is coming to our we are alive to the fact that not every Kenyan is digitally savvy. Yeah. So we have a number of Kenyans, and especially those who access justice, self-representing litigants in the small claims court, in the children's court, who need assistance. So yes, we have digitalized and we have automated our procedures and processes, but you need people who will have to assist the self-representing litigants navigate through these platforms.
So for you, Amos, obviously at the small claims court, it's a court that we saw that was established. It's not 2 years old yet.
Yes.
And this was people who then are seeking for,
less than $1
million shillings to be settled. And then it's often folks who don't have legal representation or, as we've been told previously, don't need it, So interesting to note that as that system, obviously a digitized one as well, how was the process from when it was established until date? Have you been able to then manage or handle? Elizabeth says that especially at the small claims court, you just don't have enough personnel. Why is that? Because it seems like, okay, what is it? It's the system, run it through the system. You don't need folks. If it's digitized, why do you still need more people?
Okay, what happens is that the small claims court, we find that we have support centers whereby litigants who are not technical savvy will come to at Milimani Commercial. We assist them file documents. We advise them on the procedures of the small claims court because they are just simplified procedures. So you basically fill in a form. Then if you have any evidence that you want to produce, you just attach on the form and we file for you. One, you have to have an EFiling account whereby that what is required is an email address and a valid phone number. So after you filed your case, then you serve. After service to the respondent, you file in a certificate of service as evidence that you have served the respondent. Then a mention notice is generated. At the point of filing, after making the payment, a mention notice is generated. That is 15 days from the date of filing. So in 2 weeks' time, you're back in court for mention. Of course, the courts are virtual, so still we do support the litigants.
Also, the assistance comes in because folks are not, again, digi-savvy. So that's where the assistance comes in. So that's why you need more people.
Exactly. Yeah, you need people to support. For instance, if they are virtual, the way Amos has said, they are virtual court sessions. I don't have a smartphone. You've given me a link, so how do I even get in
what
there?
What is this thing?
What is this thing? So they still come to court, but there is a center now where they, sit and they are processed in terms of it's your case next, so speak. This is what your case is all about. So you need people to support them navigate through these platforms.
And also to pick up from there, you find that the workload at the small claims is quite heavy. In a month, you are filing 1,500 cases. Up to date, we have a record of 4,500 cases filed from January. So you can imagine the workload.
In just the
Yeah.
4 months.
In the 4 months.
I have to ask this question.
Yes.
You had a system of filing physical files.
Yes.
Have all these files been digitized?
Yes, they have.
All?
Yes, they have.
So which means that at a click of a button, you can easily access a file, a case, and all that.
Yes.
Yes, in some courts, for instance, in the small claims court, yes.
Yes.
But there are courts, for instance, Miliman, where you have thousands of cases. So that process is ongoing. We got the support from the Ministry of ICT through the Ajira program, where they give us youth who came and helped us in terms of scanning and uploading. And we had, of course, to enhance our storage, our storage facilities so that it can, it can, like a server. Yes. So, yes, it's true, yeah. So, for cases which have been scanned and uploaded, and now, the incoming and the additional documents that are being filed, at the click of a button, you can get your entire file online. Okay. But they are now proceedings. A file is made up of not only the documents that you bring, but there are also proceedings, which, if you note, we are still writing. A number of judges and judicial officers, that is cadis and magistrates, are still recording. Very few judges have, lifted their pen. For instance, in the Court of Appeal and, of course, the Supreme Court and some courts in the High Court are no longer writing. What is happening is that another system, again, has been lodged by the Chief Justice, and this is the court recording and transcription system. So we have courts which have recording equipments, and of course in a virtual platform, we use mostly the Microsoft Teams platform, which is also a recording platform. And then thereafter, the same Ajira program, we get youth who listen in, and then they transcribe, and we get the transcripts. Yeah, so I'm saying this because for those courts which are still writing, you will then go online, but what you will see is that you will see the documents, but you will not see the proceedings, because the proceedings are handwritten proceedings. What we are doing is that we are trying to have even those handwritten proceedings, scanned and uploaded into the system, so that when we see that your file is online, then you have a complete file. You do not only have documents which have been filed online, but you also have the proceedings which have been taken by the judicial officers, also uploaded.
The advantage someone like I had, the chronological dispensation when I was born allows me to be fascinated by very many things. Like this digital age fascinates me completely. And because it fascinates me, I tend to read and figure out. And I came across something very interesting. As you write, a gadget slightly bigger than this. As you write, it's being written and it's being shelved, meaning that information is stored. There are others where you speak, and as you speak, it actually writes down what it is that you're saying.
Speech to text, yes.
See?
Yes.
As I said, I find these things fascinating. Fascinating. Yes, if someone talks about a miracle, that is a miracle. I mean, I'm seeing teeth. Now, you know where I'm going with this. Yes. How far are we from this within our courts? Yes. Because there's the little detail. Transcription can be tricky.
Especially if it's coming. So a judicial officer has to read what has been transcribed by somebody.
Yes.
And this somebody was basically just typing.
Exactly.
Not invested in this, just listening and typing.
Yes.
They could type. They could put in typos. They could.
Yes.
And for me, the bigger thing is the infiltration of insecurity. Do you actually trust the person who is listening and transcribing? Could they, in any way, just alter some detail?
So that aspect has been built in this way. So we have a BPO who manages the youth. So we have outsourced that process. But to just take into consideration the issue of security and the integrity of the proceedings, they don't give you the entire recording. They give you in batches. So they give you a 5-minute recording.
Oh.
So you will not even follow what this is.
You have no clue
You
what
have
this
no,
case is
yeah,
about.
you're just listening in, and so that if you're interested in knowing that case, Elizabeth versus Eric, you would not know this is the matter, because you have a very short recording, maybe 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and then it is taken by that firm, and then they put it all together, and then they bring it to us. Now we have a quality control unit within the judiciary. Of course, that is a unit which we are still building, and which we are hoping that it will be capacitated in terms of people. So they give us the transcript in raw format, and then that unit then listens in and confirms that it is a reflection of
what they're reading
happened in court on that day. So we have a quality, we call it Q&A unit. So the judge does not just receive it, directly from the youth.
From the student.
No. It has to go through some process.
Okay.
But you see why, again, we need, more people, despite
people.
the fact that we are automating our procedures and processes, because we need all that done. But I agree. Where are we in terms of speech to text? We have different dialects.
Yeah.
So speech to text is very tricky in terms of So it will pick up different things if I'm speaking with my accent. It will pick up different things.
Sure.
So it will have to take time for us to speak to this system until it understands that when you say this is your English word.
Before we make our own AI, we're using AI of people who speak in a different with nose.
But wait.
So it picks different things.
AI learns, by the way, it learns and it adjusts and it accommodates.
Yes.
And you're right, it takes time. That's why there was this plan B, where you actually just write.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Eric wants to go to break, so last question.
Yes.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
We still have the Honorable Elizabeth Tanui and Amos Kimani talking about digitization of the judiciary, how the judiciary is embracing technology. Just that from what you've told us so far, Amos, I'm thinking that this required some heavy investment and some broad and long-term thinking in terms of the connectivity. Number one, the software and uniformity of the software across all the stations, so that you have the same thing, not somebody saying they have version 1.2 and the other one has the updated version 1.4 and they are not compatible. So everything has to be thought of. The hardware as well, like you talked about, the capacity of the servers, connectivity. Are all the machines connected from one court to the other, or are we saying just certain divisions are the ones that are connected? For example, is it only, for example, the commercial and tax division, all the stuff, the machines are connected to in that division, but they cannot read into another division, the Employment and Labor Relations Court and such?
In terms of connectivity, we have one server, and
Is the server in Kenya?
of course, it's in Kenya. We have a server, and also, luckily for us, we have brilliant minds who have developed the system. The system is in-house developed by our ICT personnel, the developers to be exact, and it's so far so good.
It's working seamlessly.
And we are looking forward to launching more EFiling codes. Yeah, for now we are at...
Are there like redundancies and other redundancies? I'm just thinking, every time you go somewhere, go to KRA, you go to a bank, system iko down, ngoja kidogo. I can't imagine that happening to court.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, the way Amos has said, our system, so we have an integrated system. So let me speak about the case tracking system. The case tracking system is the one which is internal facing, where the judiciary staff and the judges and the magistrates are able to access. So the case tracking system, we call it the CTS, and you'll see it in many, even in the Chief Justice's speech. That one is across the country. Every court station is able to access the case tracking system, and you can access depending on your rights. For instance, myself being the deputy registrar leading the digitization in the judiciary, I have an account which I can globally access, all court stations across the country in terms of knowing the case load and even the specifics and the details of the case. So particular court staff have particular rights to the system. But the aspect that I think needs to be noted is that case tracking system is across all courts in the country, so we are connected. But then there is the EFiling system, which is now the public facing. So the EFiling system, where you can now access the court and file from the comfort of your home, is only in courts within Nairobi. Okay, so on 14th of April, the Chief Justice then extended that to courts within the Mombasa County, Mombasa Law Courts, Tononoka, Shanzu, and the SGBV Court, where litigants can now file cases online using that system. So it is not in all courts yet because of the infrastructure that we need, the capacity that we need to build, and as he said, this is our system which is homegrown. It was built by our own, brick by brick, until where it is now. We had very many false starts before. Yeah, so as you're saying, it's true that we've had false starts before, and then we just decided, let's have our own homegrown software. But in terms of infrastructure, yes, we are, as Eric has said, we are connected the entire country. For that case tracking system to run, it means that all court stations have been connected centrally.
Literally all.
All court stations are in that system. So what happens is that Eric,
Amos,
and Amos, sorry, Kimani, can access the system and can log in and see what is happening in Mandera. From the case tracking system. But it's the EFiling system
it's
now.
It's the EFiling that is now being rolled out.
Phased out.
Gradually.
So we're looking towards having Kisumu and Kakamega and courts within Mandera and Samburu before June of this year. And by January of 2024, that's the plan. All court stations across the country should be on the EFiling platform.
What's the integrity like in terms of the back end, the filing? So you don't put in a file in a different folder and then, things disappear. You have to go and search for, actually, samarani, ndu, ezukubundu. Hiyo yako iliwekwa kwa commercial court.
What happens is, on the e-filing system and the CTS system, every party is mapped to a particular case. They have to be on record in that particular case. They either appear on record as having a notice of appearance, or they are the ones who initiated that case. For example, let's say Eric wants to be mapped to a certain case. You have a case, or you are representing somebody in a case. On e-filing, it allows you to search for that particular case and request to be mapped to that particular case. So there's no instance that you'll find another person and do here is filing on Eric's behalf. So every account is mapped to a particular case.
Okay, and all the documents then for that particular case are in one central place.
Yes.
Where even the judicial officer, the registrar, looks and opens the file, Eric versus Ndu. Everything is in Eric versus Ndu folder.
Exactly.
Okay.
It hasn't gone to Kimani versus CT folder.
Yeah, sure.
Or Eric versus CT, because Eric has sued everybody.
So then, what happens within this system when cases close? What do you see then in that footprint that we're speaking? So the case is done, dusted, judgment has been given, etc., etc. It's gone through the annals of the system. So what happens when it's done in the digitized system?
What happens is we have what we call case sequences. That a case goes for an activity that is maybe a hearing. A hearing is an activity. Then goes to a judgment. There's a corresponding outcome. For example, a case was in court today. It goes for, it's given another date for maybe a judgment or something. So the outcome to be fed is judgment, date given in court. So the next activity will be judgment. So after you feed in the judgment, the outcome will be judgment delivered, case closed. So it closes the case. But the record is still in the system.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you can always go back to it for reference.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So have you found that the digitization process then has got to be layered? Because there's certain, you may come about and see, well, if we're in this system, case tracking, for example, and you find that because we've digitized the case tracking, we're going to need another element that either is supported by or will support this case tracking, and then you have to then go about the digitization of that. For example, if you're trying to find a witness has come in, you're trying to track this case, particular witness that was not there at the establishment of the case.
Yeah.
Do you find that there need to then be further levels of digitization now, whereby your IT experts need to come in and continue to tweak the system to allow you include more elements as cases may develop? Or has the digitization taken into consideration everything that a case might need from the beginning?
So that system, as I said, is a system which is being internally developed. Even as we are speaking now, it's not an end-to-end system in terms of the procedures and the processes. There are some processes which we are still doing manually. So it is true that we still need our developers to tweak the system to include every process and procedure in the life cycle of a case. Yeah, so even as Eric says that you can still see, it's true that you can still see even the cases which have been closed, they are live in the system. But we have an act, the law regulates for how long a file should remain active in the system, even in the manual process, where we are supposed to destroy some files, after a while. Yeah. So for now, we haven't built that in the system because the system is still very new, and we need an archiving, module, which we haven't built into the system. So we still need to do that. So it is a system which is still being enhanced, being improved, and that is why we have requested the Judicial Service Commission to employ for us more developers. We have very few developers in the system and the ICT personnel.
Do you have a feedback mechanism from the users?
Yes, we do.
What are the users saying? Once you test users, how they like it, what's the average sentiment? Is it positive? Is it negative? Are there many complaints?
There is a survey that was done, and it was made public on 14th of April when the Chief Justice now was rolling it out in Mombasa. What do litigants who have used the system in the Nairobi court see? So 68% gives it a thumbs up. Yeah, give it a thumbs up.
The practitioners or the users of the system.
Yes.
Because we've looked at, the advantages. We've seen that people have then engaged with courts more as a result of seeing that the system then was more user friendly.
Yes.
And that you didn't have to carry papers all over the place. But what about for people who have been in the system before it was digitized and then now seen the digitized process? How have things changed for you?
I know Amos will have his take. But for me as a judicial officer, we celebrate this system. And let me tell you why we are celebrating it. When I go home, most of our work is done at night. Most of our work is done after, because we are listening to you during the day. But you see, I have to retire and make a decision. So before these systems were deployed, I would have to carry files, home for purposes of reading and making a decision. But right now, I can get up at 4 a.m., log into the system, and I get, the entire file and work on it. And even publish whatever directions that I have to publish. I don't have to carry files. I don't have to, make handwritten decision, bring it to the secretary for purposes of that secretary, typing it and ensuring that it is sent to parties. I publish it into the system so that people wake up to orders in the morning. By 8 o'clock, if you had filed an application under certificate of urgency, for instance, yesterday, most judges deal with those applications at night. You wake up to an order in the morning. And it's been published, so you see it. So for us, it has changed our landscape altogether, and we are celebrating the system, especially, the fact that we had to carry files. If you have to go for a seminar in Naivasha, your car would have files at the booth. But now I just need my laptop.
So you need a smaller car. Okay. Amos.
So for us, it's
To pick on from where Madam Tanui has left it. For example, Eric, you filed a certificate of urgency. Madam Tanui is able to do the orders right away, and you are able to access the orders from your end. That is on the EFiling system. So you can imagine, initially, you would have to go to the courts to get your order. And also, there are those other challenges around there. So it's a beautiful thing.
It's improved things.
Yes.
I was asking about the feedback from the users because, of course, the majority of the users I expect to be advocates. Advocates just the other day went into the streets of Nairobi complaining about digitization on the land's records. Okay, because they were saying this thing, it had been worked on for long, it was rolled out, the Artisasa system, and they're saying it's just not working, it's not moving. And I haven't heard the same being said about this judicial system. And that's what I was asking. So what is their feedback? What do they say? That it's easy to use? Are there areas where they've said, please include this, and then you act very fast?
Yeah.
What's the difference between what you're doing and what Ministry of Lands has done?
What we did, the EFiling system was rolled out on 1st of July 2020, and I want to be honest, it was turbulent at first. One, the procedures and processes in the courts are basically complex, even in the manual system, and the system that we have built mirrors our procedures and processes, because you see they are regulated. There is no way we would just make a system which is do forms and everything. So we had to mirror these processes and procedures. If you are filing a child case, you have to come through, this particular route. If you are filing an insolvency petition, you don't take that route, you take this other route. If you're filing an income tax appeal. So there are many, processes, tributaries within the system. So it's, if at first, it wasn't easy. And there were many complaints that were written even to the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice had to call a kamkunji of advocates, And since it was an exclusive, we didn't give... That was the other complaint, is that we did not give an opportunity for the advocates to, file it to file cases in any other way other than the system. But it was also a strategy, because when you give us an opportunity to still do things the way we were doing, nobody would want to take another route. So it was an exclusive system. So we also had complaints. We had the Chief Justice have to address, and we had to go back even as the technical team, which I work closely with, and just tweak this and that with their support. So we are saying this system is where it is today also because they have given us feedback, and which we have used to improve and to enhance the system. It is not the way it was on 1st of July. We have used what they have said, and we have, tweaked the system to suit, but of course according to what. So
you've embraced collaboration.
Exactly.
With all the users.
Yes, and especially for the small claims, before even that system, which is specific for that court, that the system had to be built in collaboration with some advocates, because I remember that they were taken, I think, for a two-week retreat, and they, gave their feedback in terms of this is what we want to see in the system. Yeah.
Integrity. Now, you had a registry, and always the issue of integrity goes to the registry, whether it's a lands office, whether it's NSSF, wherever, it's just the registry. Even in the courts before, the issues of integrity at the registry, file patikani, file imepotea, file this and the other. How does this system address those challenges and those perennial issues?
Yeah. So I can speak about 4 ways. My brother Amos can add to what I'm going to say. The registry has completely changed in terms of how they manage the court cases. So one, the perennial issue of file missing is no longer there, so if a file cannot be traced, because we still have folders, we still have physical files. Yes, we have the online files, but since we are still, taking longhand proceedings, we still open a folder for purposes of holding those proceedings, for purposes of holding anything that we have done manually. So if for one issue or the other, this file cannot be traced, I just need to go back to the system, download it. The only issue would be the proceedings, which had been taken. So we have reduced that significantly in terms of, we are not saying that it's no longer there. It's there in terms of the proceedings, but it has been reduced significantly. So that is one, loss of files. Mm-hmm. Two, the cause list. Like every day we have a list of matters which are being handled by a court. Yes. Before this process, you would have, you would know that my case is coming up next week on 24th. So you're really waiting and preparing. On the 24th, your matter is not in the list, So for one reason or another, it could not be intentional, but some would be intentional. I have intentionally removed your matter from the list. Mm. So there's no way it will be heard. But now with this system, which automatically generates a cause list, we no longer have manual, doing of cause lists. The cause list is generated automatically. So that has been taken away completely from the registry. I can no longer, tamper with the list. If I see that a matter is not in the list, I just need to know who is it that, ensured that it's not in the list, either by not having it input into the system. The other one is the issue of fines and fees and payments, which was a registry process also. We are seeing now that is an online payment. Mm-hmm. Before, we used to have a lot of leakages in terms of revenue, where I collude, you're supposed to pay 70,000, but I assess this for you at 30. We divide the rest,
Yeah.
And since it's a manual system, it will take like a year for reconciliations to be done because there are so many files across. But for now, it is, online payment platform, and the assessment is also done by the system. You no longer come for me to tell you it's 75 or it is 1,000. The system auto-assesses, generates for you an invoice, and you pay it online. So that is how it has revolutionized that registry process.
The question that always arises when it comes to these digital matters, this is to you, Amos. How do we know it's tamper-proof? How can you assure someone like myself?
Or Kamago.
No, the man is in the country.
City Kamago.
Yes.
The system is configured in such a way that once a document has been filed, it generates a timestamp. So there's no way that you'll say, like for example, those time-bound cases. You'll say you filed a matter yesterday, and then you go to again court that you had filed 2 weeks ago.
Okay, actually,
let me
clear what I'm asking.
Yes.
The system may be created so that it is considered to be tamper-proof. How do we ensure that the people, the behind-the-scenes people who manage these systems, the ones we don't see, the ones who even created it, the ones who have the key to everything, how do we ensure that these people are tamper-proof? Because the problem is not the system. The problem is always people.
It's true. Who manage the system?
The system has access privileges. This, as an ACT officer, there are some functionalities that I can't do that are either to the court assistant or the deputy registrar. And also the system maintains audit trails. Of course, we do have the audit directorate, so you'll eventually get caught up.
You're truly an ICT person. I ask about human resource, you take me back to the ICT system.
But I think he's mentioned it because we have an audit unit which audits that system. So I don't know whether that addresses
actually
your issue.
The issue is that, let me just pick it up from there. The accusation that officers are actually the ones who are bribed, who are manipulated, could the same happen with those who have access? Okay, let's even say if they say now today, a registrar is able to do this, or a judicial officer is able to do this, so that they can think differently of a case. How do we know that these people who have access to various stages are actually not even giving away their access to other people so that they can get into the system and change documents mid-case?
Yeah. Amos, you want to try? That's your area.
You give credentials,
One, there are those safeguards measures that have been put in place. When logging into the system, there's an OTP that is sent to your phone number or email address. So
OTP is one-time
password.
CT.
Oh, no, I've come across it.
So
it's only the person who
yes, it's
has
only
the
the person
phone.
who has the phone who will be able to access the system. Yeah.
And then we have the VPN.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We do have a virtual private network that every user internal has to have that VPN to access the system. So that's a two-way authentication method. One, you have to have a VPN, and now to access the CTS itself, the platform itself, then you have to log in to the CTS, that is the case tracking system, using that one-time password.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if, for example, if a judge somewhere decides to invite his friends as he was working, and then he leaves the system open and he steps out, and a friend accidentally goes in there and writes the judgment, we can find out.
So that will be attributed to that particular judicial officer, isn't it?
Yes,
Because it
will
is
be
your
clear.
account
Yeah.
that has been used for. So it is your responsibility also as an account user, an account holder, to ensure that
There's integrity of the system.
Yes.
Asante.
Because if you leave it open to me, it's true.
Anything can
You change everything.
and it will be traced back to your account.
Honorable Elizabeth Tanui, thank you very much for joining us. She is the Deputy Registrar of the Commercial and Tax Division. Amos Kimani is an ICT officer in the courts as well. We'll be talking about digitization of the judiciary.